my personal
Test. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I made a mistake. Let's go check it again. Testing. Testing.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh,
Thank you.
fantastic. Although I can't see anything.
Camera off.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Melissa.
All righty. Thank you.
Thank you all for viewing tonight's Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at the City of Clearlake Chambers on August 9th, 2022. As a reminder, if you're on our Zoom meeting as a participant, please put yourself on mute unless you are speaking. We are currently live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube channel and the Lake County PEG TV live stream YouTube channel. To begin, can I please have roll call? And I'd like everybody to know that Aaron McCarrick, Commissioner McCarrick, will be responding on Zoom.
Chair Wilson,
Here.
Vice Chair Coker.
Here.
Commissioner McCarrick,
Present.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Thank you. For those present, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We are now at the portion of our meeting where we adopt the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes.
Thank you. This is now the time for the public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the Planning Commission on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the commission or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The commission cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Are there any public comments in the chambers or by phone or Zoom? I'll go to the chambers first. Would anybody like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Thank you. Is there anybody on Zoom or on the phone that would like to speak to something that is not on the agenda?
There is no one on Zoom.
Thank you. Our consent items are item number 1, the minutes. Item number 2, the determination of the general plan consistency. I will take a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I move to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
My second.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Thank you. Are there any against? Thank you. The motion passes. We're now on to our public hearing items. Item number 3. The Pregnancy Counseling Center of Ukiah, doing business as Mendo Lake Women's Clinic, has applied for a conditional use permit and associated environmental filing categorical exemptions to authorize the operation of an outpatient clinic within an existing commercial building located at 14595 Olympic Drive, Suite C, Clearlake. Are there any reports from the staff?
Yes, Commission, Mike Taylor, Assistant Planner, will be presenting the project, and give me a second and I will do a screen share so I can pull up this PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commission and those of the public. This is a presentation for the Mendo Lake Women's Clinic, outpatient clinic, located at 14595 Olympic Drive, Suite C. This is a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Next slide, please. So this is a map general location. It's located between Old Highway 53 and Lakeshore Drive, about midway. As you can see on the map on the left, the yellow dot is the location, general location of the proposed project. On the right is the existing building that it will be located in, and it will be located in the square area there of the main building, which is approximately 5,000 square feet. The area of the building that it's going to be located in. It's about 3,000 square feet. There are two parcels there, as you will see on the next slide, and it will be located on the parcel on the right. So as you can see with the red dot, that is APN number 039164444. That is the location of the proposed clinic. And it's within a 3,000 square foot, as mentioned earlier, 3,000 square foot area of an existing building that is 5,000 square feet, which actually spans both APN 039164441, which is to the left of the subject parcel, which is 039164444. Next slide. So project summary, it's outpatient clinic as proposed by the applicant. As you can see, there are general services there, pregnancy testing, prenatal vitamins, ultrasounds, consultations, STI testing and treatment. And then as they're also proposing an abortion pill recovery treatment program. Hours of operation would be 3 days a week, 12:30 to 5 p.m. And that's when they would receive patients into the facility. And they're anticipating up to 5 patients per day and 4 employees total per day, I believe it is, and 1 shift per day. As mentioned earlier, the tenant space is in an existing building. It's about 2,000 square feet of the area, which is approximately 3,000 square feet on the subject parcel. They are proposing tenant improvements, which would include a reception area, offices, counseling rooms, an exam room, restrooms, and then mechanical facility room. They're also proposing a sign at which this point is generally being proposed, and it would be subject to the conditions. It would be condition 12, I believe, in the conditions of approval, which is an attachment 1 of the staff report, which once they have their plans done and finalized, they can present those at the building permit level. Parking, it appears that the 2 parcels share a common parking area. The subject parcel has about 11 parking spaces and 1 ADA, or maybe even 2 ADAs. I can't tell because of the aerial that we took the analysis from. Total existing parking spaces is 23 parking spaces for both parcels, according to the zoning ordinance. Based on the 5,000 square foot building, there would be required 16 standard parking spaces. Next slide. This is a site plan of the existing parcel that the applicants provided. As you can see, there's approximately 11 existing parking spaces and then an ADA space, which is at the corner of the building. So the square box up to the right, upper right, that is the 3,000 square foot building. And as mentioned earlier, 2,000 square feet of that would be for the proposed clinic. Next slide. So these are just some pictures of the existing building. The clinic would be on the left side in the corner. If you look at the bottom photograph, that is generally where the clinic would be located. Actually, that front corner there is not part of the clinic. It actually wraps around to the back side, west and south side of the square part of that building. To the right at the bottom is the signage for the property, and the applicant can go into more detail on the signage if they would like, but I believe they're proposing to include their signage on that freestanding monument sign there. Exactly. This is a site plan that provided by the applicant, which shows the tenant improvements. If you were looking at the building, Olympic Drive would be down at the bottom. Buckeye Street would be on the left side, and then extension of the rest of the 5,000 square foot building would be to the right. So as you can see down at the bottom on the right side, that would be the entrance, and then they would have the reception right down there at the entrance. And then as you move back towards the L shape towards the back to the southeast, you would have exam room, offices, bathrooms, that sort of type of tenant improvement there. Next slide. This is a zoning map of the property. It is zoned general commercial, right where the star is. That is the zoning indication there of general commercial. To the south would be residential. To the right and left would be mixed use. Across Olympic Drive to the north is general commercial. And then up in that area, there's the new, there's Safeway and the new Tribal Health Center. So most of it to the upper is commercial, down below is residential. Environmental analysis, CEQA, the city is required to take a look at this from a CEQA standpoint. The staff has found that it is exempt under CEQA because it is an existing structure and is exempt under section 15301, existing facilities, class 1. Conditions of approval. You can refer to attachment 1, resolution under resolution PC 2022-16 for the conditions of approval. In particular, signage and tenant improvements, those would be required to, if approved here, would be required to submit for signage permits and building permits and all other permits that's necessary for approval. Staff at this time recommends adoption of PC 2022-16, I'm sorry. And so that's the presentation. Any questions? And thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask each commissioner if there are any questions of staff at this time. Vice Chair Coker,
No, I don't.
Commissioner McCarrick,
Was one of the condition, hi, thank you for the report. Thank you, Chair Wilson.
repeat that, please.
Just wondering if any of the conditions were for curb and gutter.
Were there conditions for curb and gutter? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yes, it is, and subject to that. But as you might have seen in one of the photographs, Olympic Drive does have curb and gutter already and sidewalk. The question is whether we would require that on the Buckeye Street.
Yeah, and also just in general, as new projects come to light, how is that, it's a question for a larger question. Thanks for answering on this one.
Commissioner Stewart,
No questions.
Commissioner Williams.
I have no questions.
I have no questions for staff at this time. I'd like to open the discussion to the public. Is there anybody? Well, first I'd like to know if there's anybody from Mendocino Lake Women's Clinic that would like to say anything. Please come up and identify yourself. Thank you. Yes, please.
My name is Kathy Hoyt. I am the chairman of the board of directors for the Center for Life Choices, the funding agency for Mendocino Lake Women's Clinic. I currently oversee the clinic.
Can you speak right into the microphone? They can't hear in the back, please.
Should I repeat all that?
Yes, please.
My name is Kathy Hoyt. I am the current chairman of the board of directors for the Center for Life Choices, which is a funding agency for Mendocino Lake Women's Clinic. And I currently direct the clinic.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be able to comment today on behalf of the Mendocino Lake Women's Clinic project. As chairman of the board of directors and currently overseeing clinic operations, I can tell you that we are excited about the opportunity to serve the women of Lake County as we have served Mendocino County for over 35 years. We're a licensed medical clinic providing pregnancy screening services that include pregnancy and STI testing, limited obstetrical ultrasound exams, as well as options consultation and limited material support. We are not new to Lake County, but operated for over 6 years as a mobile clinic from October of 2012 until January of 2019. After an untimely demise of our mobile clinic, we intended to establish a permanent setting, resulting in the project that you have before you tonight. I appreciate the favorable report that the staff has given on this project. But to give you an idea of what our day-to-day activity will look like, let me describe our business model. When a patient contacts us either by phone, internet, text, or physically entering our facility, we then schedule them with an appointment that day or within the next few days. Although initially we will only be open 2 days per week, and due to building up our staffing, ultimately we will be able to offer 3 days per week and approximately 5 hours on each of those days for appointments. We can schedule up to 5 appointments per day. This allows us to see as many as 10 initial patients in a week with follow-up for resulting return appointments. By initial appointment, we're referring to the first visit of a patient to our facility, which takes about an hour per patient. Most initial appointments require a follow-up visit that happens a week later and takes about 30 minutes. Each week is a combination of those types of appointments. In addition to our pregnancy screening services, we have several additional programs to offer, including recovery for what is known as post-abortion syndrome, which is a form of PTSD. Contrary to the common narrative, abortion can be a traumatic event for many women and men, as well as family and friends. And we plan to address this silent mental health thief with an outreach that heals and brings hope. Another service we intend to provide is the abortion pill reversal treatment for women who begin the abortion pill procedure and then find themselves regretting that decision. When begun soon enough, there can be very favorable results for these women and their families. The medically underserved county of Lake will benefit greatly from the presence of this clinic, not only by the programs that we offer, but also the referrals that we will undoubtedly provide. For example, with Tribal Health nearly across the street, we have the opportunity to appoint women who choose to carry their babies to a possible source for the ongoing care that they will need. As has been noted in the staff report, our medical clinic will be a positive influence in moving this community toward many of its goals, which include a compatible mix of uses and increased access to health care with very little impact on the existing infrastructure. We are filling office space that has been vacant for several years, and in so doing, we are contributing to the vibrancy of the community, as well as helping residents seeking healthcare to stay local. Exit surveys from our patients are overwhelmingly positive and include comments such as, "It's a good resource, knowledgeable and friendly staff, super professional, generous and welcoming." When we receive calls from ladies in Lake County right now that currently do not have the ability to travel over to Ukiah, it sends us that we are not yet open. These are calls for help that will go unsatisfied, leaving many women hanging in the balance when they could have been treated. For us, it's a lost opportunity to equip women for the decisions they face with an unplanned pregnancy. It's a lost opportunity to transform the fear with which they enter our doors with confidence of making an informed choice about their life, their family, and their future. Not to mention the effect that has on the overall health of this community. As a licensed medical clinic, we are staffed with trained medical and support personnel that follow standard medical and HIPAA protocol, just as every licensed medical facility must do. The most significant difference between our facility and other clinics is that we offer our services at no cost to any of our patients. Another significant difference is that we are funded totally by donations from regular people like you and me. It would be accurate to say that we are community supported. Because of this, we have some concerns and questions regarding the conditions of approval that were spoken of earlier and how that may burden the hard-earned dollars of our generous donors. In good faith, we are wanting to follow the standards and protocol of this commission, and that is why the entire renovation project will convert a non-ADA compliant office space into one that is. But some of the conditions of approval seem a little unrelated and seem like they're overlooking details about what is already existing on site, and that most of our renovations are interior. And I could be wrong, and I receive any update or information that you may want to give me regarding this. So I may be misinformed, but this is how it looks to me. There may be other people here tonight that might address some of the conditions more specifically, but it's obvious in condition number 5 that there is some leeway for the commission to adjust what looks like boilerplate requirements. These may truly apply to projects much larger and more involved than ours, but for us, they result in more cost and delay, leaving more women unserved. In the interest of building and improving the community, we ask to be relieved or given modification in submitting some of these items in the conditions for approval that present that the presence of our clinic will not impact. Specifically, I'll note, and when I saw the list of conditions, I noticed that there were 2 number 14s. Maybe I'm looking at an odd copy of it, but I'm referring to things listed in the first number 14. And in item 14, there's a reference to a civil site plan. And the sewer system is already present there, and we will not impact the sewer system any differently than the previous occupant of this site, probably less. Also in item number 14 is the requirement of an off-street parking and circulation plan. And there is already no off-street parking along Olympic Drive, and we're not changing the parking lot or its flow. The only change that will be made is that the building owner, which is not us, will be upgrading the existing handicap parking space, and it will remain in the same location it presently occupies. Also requested is a landscape and irrigation plan. As mentioned earlier, our renovations are interior. The landscaping is already existing and we will not be affecting it. There's also listed a requirement for a trash enclosure plan. The previous occupant used individual trash bins that were kept within the building. We intend to do the same. We make very little trash. There is no need for a dumpster for us or anything of that size. And so consequently, I don't see the need for an enclosure or a plan for one. One of the last things is a lighting plan that's requested, and this is already an existing improvement, and our project does not affect that. Finally, there is one last request for a cultural resource consultant investigation. And I believe that is surrounding the fact that it may be a historical building, which I don't believe it is. It was built in 1980, has no real significant structural qualities that are magnificent. As I mentioned, we are all for the improvement of the city and the surrounding areas, and hope that the commission will understand the balance between community enhancement and strict adherence to regulation. We appeal to the commission to relieve some of the regulation in order to enhance the health of the community. Neither will be accomplished overnight, but both need to work together. With a distinct possibility of serving over 200 women in the course of a year, we represent a positive impact on 200 families. That fact alone makes us confident that the Mendel Lake Women's Clinic will prove to be an asset to the city of Clearlake and Lake County in general. And I urge the commission to allow this project to move forward in a more realistic and affordable fashion. Thank you. And I will entertain any questions or clarifications you might need.
Thank you. Would staff like to address the director's concerns?
Yes, of course. So for some of these conditions, they are, a lot of them are generic and boilerplate. Regarding the number 14, where it has subject to the civil site plans, that'd be referring to the curb gutter and sidewalk, but we already have curb gutter and sidewalk along Olympic. It would just be, Alan, do you want to have them do curb gutter and sidewalk along the adjoining street, or leave that as is?
Well, I mean, that's a decision for the commission. Our municipal code requires that we add that requirement. In this case, along Olympic, it's already provided, so the commission, I guess, could decide if they wanted to hold them to that on Madrone and whatever the other street is, the smaller section.
Oh, we don't vote on the border Buckeye.
I'll take a poll of the commissioners. So I'll be asking you if you want to uphold the city codes to require curb and gutter on the side street known as Buckeye. I'll start with Vice Chair Coker. It's a straw poll.
Tough one. So I would say no.
You would not hold them to that?
No.
Commissioner Stewart,
I would not. No sidewalk required, in my opinion,
Commissioner Williams,
or curb and gutter.
On Buckeye, I wouldn't require it. It's, I believe that what we have on Olympic is sufficient.
Commissioner McCarrick,
I'd say if it was other development agreements and other companies have had the same requirement, that I would say yes, hold this requirement.
I would say yes also. So in an informal poll, the 3 of the planning commissioners would support not requiring them to put curb and gutter on Buckeye.
Thank you.
And to provide some additional clarification regarding the off-street parking and circulation plan, when your contractor or your representative submits for your building permit, it's essentially just a site plan, just clarifying your parking.
Okay.
The building permit's usually always associated with a site plan, and that would suffice for that requirement. Just showing egress and ingress and the parking requirements would suffice that requirement. In terms of landscaping, I will leave, let the planning commission decide if they want to allow landscaping or remove that requirement. For a trash enclosure, since you're going to be having existing or your individual services for the units, that is fine. A lot of the commercial buildings are converting to trash enclosures or are building trash enclosures, but if they're unable to do that, they will do the individual services per the unit, which is fine and would meet that requirement if you're having individual services for your unit. The exterior lighting plan, it was just if you're going to replace any exterior lighting, it's just kind of it'd be on the building with your building permit, just kind of a general requirement to show like the downward, but it's not like you have to submit a full-blown lighting plan if you are even doing lighting. But if you're not doing any lighting, then you don't have to worry about it.
Great.
Then the signage plan, you didn't have any questions about that, but this is a final signage plan to submit.
Mhm.
Your last question was, I believe, number 24 on the no, number 23, which is the cultural resource investigation. That one, the planning commission, since you're not doing any ground disturbance, you can probably remove that one since it's more of like a boilerplate for any new development, or if you do find anything, it's more of just you're aware of it and that's what would occur. But since you're not doing any ground disturbance and you're going interior, you should be fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
So that leaves a couple of issues here for the commissioners. I'll go through that. So I'll start with the no ground disturbance. So there's perhaps no requirement for cultural resource references. I'll do a straw poll again. Is this commission willing to forego the cultural resource requirements? And I'll start with Vice Chair Coker,
Yes.
and I'll go to Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Since there's no ground movement happening, yes.
and Commissioner McCarrick.
Because there's no ground disturbance, yes, but I think this is are we gonna go back to conversations, not just straw polls?
Are we what?
Is there a chance for conversation, not just straw polls?
I don't know what you said that last year.
Chance for conversation, not just straw polls.
Yes.
Sure.
Because I just have to put a couple things on record. I mean, yes, I can support the foregoance of a tribal representative, but I just really want to make sure that things are being consistent throughout each of these development agreements or conditions of approval with businesses that apply to do business in Clearlake. That's probably not for today, but I'm also curious as to why some of these questions weren't brought up with the applicant, like why this is the first time that these conversations are happening. This could have given us more of a chance, if staff had been aware of this, we could have had more of a chance to talk about each project individually. So those are the two things, just making sure that we're not losing consistency with other projects of similar scope. And also that there is communication with the staff.
Understood. Thank you, Commissioner McCarrick. And I would support foregoing cultural resources because there's no ground disturbance. So that's, Alan Flora would like to say something.
Yeah, if I could add on that. So while we don't see a risk here, I would caution against actually removing these conditions in case for some reason ADA improvements come up or whatever that requires some disturbance, because there is an obligation under state and federal law to do these things if the ground is disturbed. So, I mean, if the applicant understands, as long as it isn't happening, you know, these conditions don't really come into play, but I would hesitate for the commission to actually remove them in case some disturbance came up as part of the project, because, you know, it's really state and federal law that governs our responsibility to ensure these things happen.
Understood. So the language would be that it's a requirement if there's ground disturbance. And if there's ground disturbance, you will be responsible for cultural resource mitigation. Is that correct? That's what we want to hold true.
Correct.
Yeah, if human remains are discovered during ground disturbance, there's a variety of things that have to happen. So,
Yeah, that the human remains was in a different condition.
it's all kind of tied
Yeah, I know.
together.
It's tied together. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're not removing it. We are just saying that if you have ground disturbance, you will be held to that standard.
Yes, that's fine.
Is that in the motion? Okay, so then I think the last one is the landscaping. And we do require a landscaping plan. And I feel like it's a plan, whether it's to change or not to change, there's a plan. You have a plan to not change anything, so submit
Just
the
so you know
plan.
it's there or what's there.
Submit
Is
the
that-
plan.
Oh, okay.
Still a requirement, whether you're moving a plant or not.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't. Does any other commissioner have any feedback about the landscaping? Commissioner McCarrick?
Yeah, I would keep this in there. I think, you know, especially as that corridor is becoming beautified with tribal health right around there. And as Ellen mentioned, to have a condition in there doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be there now, but maybe it's something in the future. And then it's something that is just keeping on par with that corridor there.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with the commissioner or the staff? Commissioners?
Thank you for considering this project.
Thank you for coming to us. I would like to invite any other member of the public to speak on this issue. Yes, please come up and identify yourself in the chambers.
Yeah, my name is Phil Skiles. I'm with Skiles and Associates. We're the contractor that's building there, doing the work. And I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission here and the planning department. So I've been a contractor for close to 40 years, 38 to be exact. I worked from San Francisco, Marin County, Sonoma County, Napa County, Lake County, Mendocino County, and a myriad of city agencies within all those counties for the years that I've been a contractor here. And so I understand the need for regulations and ordinances and policy and all that. I think, however, in this particular situation, I have a hard time seeing what it's actually accomplishing with a clinic that is coming in or desiring to come into the city, where there has been clinics there prior from the day the building was built. I think basically what it's effectively doing is just postponing a vital business that is desiring to come in and operate within the city limits, that is a business that is doing a vital service for the women here. I would not only request that this commission approve this use permit, And then I would also encourage the city to promote a inviting a business climate for the businesses that operate in the city, as well as those that would desire to come into the city. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this commission on this subject? Please step forward and state your name.
Dave Hughes, and I'm here representing the property owner at work. I kind of want to follow what Mr. Skiles just touched on. I sent numerous emails to staff and to Alan Flora questioning the need for a use permit at all. And I guess the words walk-in clinic are what's triggering this. I Googled the definition of a clinic, and the first definition that came up, and I copied and pasted it: a place in which outpatients are given medical treatment or advice often connected to a hospital, and two, a similar place staffed by physicians or surgeons specializing in one or more specific areas. And it mentions eye clinic. The building has been an eye clinic since it was built in the 80s. There's curb, gutter, and sidewalk. There's parking, there's landscaping, there's lighting, there's a sign. The two parcels are owned by two different people. So we cannot necessarily impose anything on the neighbor anyway. At least I don't think we can, especially if we're talking about curb, gutter, and sidewalk on Madrone, because this property owner doesn't even own it. The eye clinics were open 5 days a week. They took walk-in customers or clients or patients 5 days a week. This use is going to be 3 days a week by their state license, 5 patients a day. If someone walks in, they have to schedule an appointment. They can't just walk in and be seen. If there's an opening that day, I'm sure they will take them on that appointment. So the use is less intense than what has been historically there. And if this city wants to attract more viable businesses into this community, number one, you're increasing the fee for this use permit. This is going to cost $2,200. The city council is increasing the fees right now, $2,200. And to me, this is totally unnecessary. It's a waste of staff time. It's a waste of the applicant's time. The property owner is not getting any rent until they open their doors. He agreed to not collect any rent till they got the remodel done and open their doors. So he's waiting. This is an undue hardship you placed on the property owner, on the applicant. And I don't know if this commission can do this, but I'd like to say this use permit shouldn't even be required. We have an existing structure, a similar use, and I think we're abusing the use permit process in the city. So I think you've covered the conditions, and it looks like they don't have to do most, if not all. I mean, send a picture of a sign, I guess. It's just such a waste of time, including staff time. And I would really encourage, I guess we'd have to go, maybe the planning commission starts it, but some review of when a use permit's required. I mean, staff might have the flexibility to say, hey, this is a similar use. We've got parking, we've got landscaping, and if you don't like the landscaping that's there, by the way, I drove by today and I'm going, you know, I better get on the property owner. This is looking a little funky, but it's there. Again, boilerplate conditions that they don't even need to do. Why are we here? It's a waste of time. So that's basically what I wanted to say. I mean, obviously we're encouraged that staff is supporting the use, but I think in this case, it's not needed and it's not necessary. And like I said, I don't know if the commission has the ability to say we don't need a use permit in this case and just let them go get their building permit and open up, or not. I'd like to think maybe you do, having been a planning commissioner once. So anyway, I think I've said enough and I'll sit down, but I think this is a waste of everybody's time, including the commission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from the audience in the chambers? Do you have any hands raised on Zoom or on the phone?
No hands are raised.
I'll close this portion of the hearing. The hearing is now closed. I will now ask if there are any more questions on the part of the commissioners. Vice Chair Coker,
I do not.
Commissioner Stewart,
I have to say that Mr. Hughes has raised some valid points in my opinion, and I would like to know if it's within the purview of our commission to just tell them to get a building permit and comply by all that, and they could open without the use permit. I kind of don't really see either why they're having to do this.
so that's a question to staff.
Okay, so Google's very convenient, but it's not the city municipal code. And the city municipal code says that this use requires a use permit. In fact, Mr. Hughes was on the zoning committee that recommended approval of this very zoning ordinance with this use is specified this way to both the planning commission and city council. The fees were increased recently by the city council, does affect this use permit. But those moving forward, some of them were a fair increase, however, still the lowest in Lake County and certainly within the region. You know, I have to say that we need a consistent standard. It's my belief that the city is extremely business friendly. But you can drive around this town and see the impact that the Good Old Boys Network has had on development in the city over the years. And those days need to stop. And I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Commissioner Williams, do you have any questions for
I have
staff?
no additional questions. Thank you.
Commissioner McCarrick, do you have any questions for staff?
I have no questions. I would also like to state that Clearlake is a very business-friendly environment and that staff definitely works with each individual candidate to make their plans. And we could even ask for this to be pushed 2 weeks so we can get a greater understanding of what projects need, what projects don't, and what conditions of approval could be applicable and which won't. I have zero interest in doing that because, again, we do want to see things move forward, but I think it is important to realize that everybody has these conditions of approval. And if we're going to look at changing them, we'd have to look at a larger scope of what projects require them or not. So no additional comments. Thank you, Chair Wilson.
Thank you,
If I
Commissioner
could
McCarrick.
make one more comment, I would encourage the council to approve this project tonight so that it can move forward. We're already here. And if there are areas in the zoning ordinance you have concerns about, we are, from a staff perspective, are not resistant to a more streamlined process. We can streamline it so much that the commission has absolutely nothing to do if that's what you and the city council would like. But that's a different discussion, I think, and we're happy to take any recommendations that the commission has forward to the city council for their consideration to streamline any parts of the process. But we do need to make sure that there are conditions of approval and regulations are followed and that there's an orderly and consistent development pattern in the city moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this topic.
I move to adopt resolution PC 2022-16, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Clearlake approving conditional use permit application CUP 2022-13, sign permit SGN 2022-04, and categorical exemption CE 2022-12 for the development and operation of an outpatient clinic located at 14595 Olympic Drive, Suite C, Clear Lake, California, 95422, further described as assessor's parcel number 039-164-024-000.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have Vice Chair Coker as a second, Justin.
Yes.
So we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner McCarrick.
Aye.
Vice Chair Coker,
Aye.
Chair Wilson.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you for your interest in the economic development of the city of Clear Lake. And I concur with comments that City Manager Flora made, that we are working to make this an economically viable, friendly community. So thank you for participating and for your civic actions by sitting in this room. We'll now move on to staff reports.
Just a couple of items. Our two of our 3 affordable housing projects are under construction. You've probably seen them. The one on Old Highway 53 has had quite a bit of framing done. The one over here by the community center is not quite there yet, but moving in that direction. There's a lot of earthwork being completed. We did complete sort of the first phase of the Burns Valley project related to where mudslingers will go, the coffee shop that was approved by the commission a while back, and then the first part of the public works yard. And so now we're just working on design for the sports complex. We have some of the funding allocated for that. We're waiting on what we are really hoping and have some level of confidence we'll be getting another $3 million from the state. Later this month, we should find out on that. And so that project, the environmental document, and while it's a city project, arguably, it also requires a use permit for approval of that and the initial study. And so we'll be bringing that to commission in the next meeting or two. We're just waiting on the, is it later this month? Yeah. The, excuse me, comment period on the environmental document to conclude, and then we'll bring that forward. Splash pad finally started construction yesterday across the street. So that's been much longer than expected. It's not even going to be done by Labor Day now, which is very frustrating, but at least it's on track at this point. We've done a number of roads projects. Tomorrow is the start of another 10 miles of chip seal. So last year we did 5. The year before that we did 1. We just trying to keep doing more and more. So that'll be great to get that rolling. And then we're finishing up the design on the 18th Avenue extension at the airport property. Kind of waiting just on PG&E to finalize some stuff right now for us, and we'll be able to get that out to bid, and we still intend to start construction on that this year. I think that's all I have to report. I don't know if Mark has anything.
Thank you, Mark.
As City Manager Flora indicated, we'll be bringing the one project before you, and we'll bring an additional conditional use permit before you as well. So we will have 2 items on the 23rd of August as of now. We have various other administrative use permits that we're processing. One was just recently submitted, so that's out for review. Then we have some lot mergers and some lot line adjustments that we're also wrapping up for some larger developments. Been speaking with mudslingers. They should be submitting their building permit here shortly. So it sounds like they're gathering and finalizing all the information to actually formally submit to start their construction process. But that's all I have.
Are there any commissioners' reports or questions of staff? Vice Chair Coker?
Yeah, I noticed on the paperwork we got in the packet that we were gonna discuss the parcel that's across from J&L Market. Was that taken off?
No, it was part of the consent agenda, so you approved it along with the minutes and stuff. But if you had any questions about it, I can try to address them now.
Is that the 18th Avenue that you're speaking of?
Yes, so there's a road right away that goes straight through north of that property, but because of the terrain there, we weren't really able to punch all the way through. Plus, without getting into all the details, like the grade cut was pushing the driveway entrance to the hotel back too far. And so there's going to be a little curve where it comes down further south through the middle of that property where the old propane tank was, a little bit further south, and that's going to make the grades work out. better for the hotel and for everything else. Plus, it's going to slow traffic down and stuff as it comes down the hill. So.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Stewart?
I'm curious if any of our previously approved marijuana projects have broken ground or pulled permits or doing anything. What's happening with any of that? We've got a bunch of stuff hanging out there that seems like it's approved, but nothing's going on visually, at least.
Sure. Well, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Mostly there isn't much going on. There are a couple of things operating at Ogulin Canyon, which have been for a little while, and a couple of things at Olympic. There's still quite a bit of work going on, particularly at Olympic right now. I think just the market conditions have really slowed all of those projects down with the cannabis market, and it's, you know, when most of that stuff was permitted, it was, the market was completely different. Everyone was making money, and then things have really changed, and everyone's really sharpening their pencils a lot. So, you know, we are having a number of conversations with those folks. There's a little bit of there's still a lot of planning going on and some things happening, but people are kind of trying to re-look at things. We have had some requests for the city to sort of reconsider the development agreements, and particularly the gross receipts fee that was associated with that. Our fees of 5% gross receipts, it's technically not a tax, but which is one of the highest ones out there. And so, you know, there's certainly some thought that that may be impacting some of the actual operations moving forward after they're being permitted. So we've been talking to a number of the permittees about kind of what may make sense to rework that, and we bring that forward through the process at this point. We haven't put a proposal together yet, but we're expecting to do that sometime in the next couple of months, probably. So I don't know.
Question, was the Imperial Center completely, apparently whatever going on there was prior to my time on the commission. And of course, it's obvious that all the commercial tenants are out of there. Was the entire place taken over with the idea of processing or growing or whatever?
Well, you know, it wasn't a complete permit application. I think it was in the cannabis zone, and then, you know, I think it was probably driven largely by the property owner thinking that this was going to bring him the highest lease rates for those folks. And so there are a number of different permittees. But yeah, essentially it's all cannabis in there now. And there is one group that has kind of gobbled up some of the other ones and is trying to use almost all of the facility for their various operations that's already been permitted. So yeah, it was kind of an organic process, which I think was largely a result of the interest of the property owner himself. But, yeah.
Commissioner Williams?
I have nothing.
Commissioner McCarrick?
No comments or questions or updates. Thanks.
I have a question about the park fire cleanup. How is that going, and it's not really planning commission, but just general interest?
So when you say park fire, you're talking about cash fire from last year?
No, the park fire on Old 53.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, really most of that is going to be impacted by the construction. So there's a little bit of work that city crews are going to be doing out there. You know, we were just finishing had just finalized, I think, the arborist report for the hotel, and then they had to come back because a number of those trees that were going to have to be relocated were actually burnt and so forth. So I think most of it's just going to be kind of folded into the construction process. Yeah.
Super. Thank you. With that, we will adjourn at 6:54. Thank you.